Welcome back to the Exceed Business Channel and the Ask Jim series. I'm Jim Hazboun, CEO of Exceed, and I created this series called Ask Jim, where we can answer real-life leadership and business questions. And so this question comes from a recent lunch I had with a CEO and CFO of a fairly fast-growing company in Texas. We had a wonderful lunch. We talked about their HR strategy, and we discussed several solutions that really energized them about the future of their people strategy. As we were walking out of the restaurant, the CEO leaned into me and said, "Hey, Jim, why does HR suck?" As you can imagine, I was taken back by that. I chuckled, I laughed, and I said, HR doesn't actually suck. But if you don't have the right people in the right roles, it's not going to be performing the way you want it to. And so I was thinking about that comment over the last week, and I thought I'd make a video about this and really talk about what are the areas that HR is falling behind and basically losing the business. And so I wanted to give you my perspective on it. So the first area is really because HR lacks a necessary amount of business acumen. So business acumen is critical. And what that means is that the HR leader or the team in place doesn't really understand the business, how it operates, what are the value drivers, the volume drivers, all of that. And so because of that, they tend to then basically focus on the things that are HR-y and not about the things that drive the business. So one of the first critical factors that an HR leader has to have is business acumen. If you don't know the business, learn it, and learn it like you're a practitioner. Number two, HR is too reactive and not strategic. I can't tell you how many times I've heard from C-suite leaders about them trying to drive transformation and trying to drive growth, and HR shows up late to the game. They show up late with critique and a lot of neurosis and anxiety because they feel like whatever's happening is happening to them versus being strategic and planning and having foresight and being able to see where the business is going and then to be able to meet the business at its point of need. So it's very critical for a top HR leader to be strategic and not just reactive. Number three, very weak in developing leaders. This is probably one of the most important areas that I hear about, especially from CEOs. I know that McKinsey had published a report that said only 13% of organizations that they surveyed feel like they have the right amount of people or the right people in the leadership pipeline. So this is critical. This is critical for all aspects of the business. If you don't create a grow from within culture, then you're not going to have the ability to promote people into roles where they can be successful. You're going to be constantly going to the outside. And that sometimes is necessary, but it's also riddled with risk. Especially, hiring to a resume or to a skill set, for middle management and above, because you don't know if that person is going to embrace the culture, the operating mode of the organization, and to ultimately be a fit. It's a far better endeavor to be able to identify people early in the organization and to develop them and move them along in the organization and grow them within and have a really robust leadership pipeline, one that the C-suite feels excited about and the one that the board feels excited about. And so this is a key mandate for HR. And again, in many cases, they're showing up late to the party and not doing what the business requires them to do. Number four, the ability to drive cultural transformation. This is a very important area in two aspects. Number one, HR has to be the ones that are evangelizing the culture, the aspirational culture. They have to be able to live and breathe the culture, the values, and then to be able to convert people to that. They have to be the ones to be able to take that culture from the mind of the CEO and then translate that into an operating system that the organization runs on. Okay, so this is something that is critical for HR. Now, is HR doing that? No, not consistently enough in the eyes of many CEOs. They feel that they're doing the heavy lifting on the culture. HR is not able to drive transformation through the culture and then to be able to turn it into an operating system. It's a huge opportunity for HR to be relevant to the business, but it requires them to be in sync with the CEO and then to be able to understand the organization and then to have the right kind of change management, the organizational change management methods to be able to drive that through the adoption curve throughout the organization. And number 5, it's HR being over-indexed on the operations and compliance side of the house versus the strategic side of the house. If any of you are familiar with Dave Ulrich's work about the HR business partnership model, one of the 2 areas of risk that David always pointed out was, number 1, HR being bled slowly into the areas of operations and in employee relations. Those 2 areas are the bottom of the pyramid when it comes to strategic HR, and they drain HR of its vitality, of its time, and its ability to be strategic. And so many HR leaders focus way too much time being reactive, focusing on ER issues as they flare up and operational issues versus the other areas we talked about today, which is understanding the business, understanding the financials, knowing where the business is going and meeting it at its point of need. And so this is an area that is absolutely one of the reasons why CEOs and CFOs and other C-suite members, claim HR sucks, if you will. So that being said, I do want to point out that HR is a bit of a tale of 2 cities. You have many in HR that are doing all the right things, all the things we talked about today and more. And as a result, what you're seeing is there's a certain segment of HR leaders that are being asked to step into expanded roles. They're stepping into COO roles, president roles, and even CEO roles. You see the importance of HR, and many large organizations are making it mandatory for a rising CEO to do a rotation through HR so they can understand that aspect of the business, the people strategy. And so we have many role models out there, guys, that you can be looking to. What we have to avoid is the self-indulgent HR, the cocooned HR that is focused only on being the police or being the party planners and focusing on the less strategic areas. So you have 2 paths ahead of you. If you're kind of stuck and not sure where you fall, basically, you're on the wrong path. And so if you're not on that path of strategic relevance, business relevance, then you don't have to ask yourself any more questions. If you're chasing a seat at the table, you don't have to ask yourself any more questions. You're on the wrong path. And so I take great pride in the fact that Exceed helps HR leaders and HR teams to up level, to get on the right path, to focus on the strategic. Now, listen, the operational stuff's important. We can't dismiss this. It's the foundational part of HR. But if you're laying all your bets on that, you're never going to rise to the point of relevance to the C-suite. If you need help, feel free to reach out to Exceed. Me and my team would be happy to spend some time with you doing an exploratory session to see how we can map you and your team to the more strategic side of HR. And with that, thank you for joining me today. I'm Jim Hazboun, and this is Ask Jim on the Exceed Business Channel.